The Greens are suspending standing orders in both chambers today to discuss an incredibly depressing and landmark report that was released overnight, which is the last wake-up call for this parliament and, frankly, every other parliament around this whole planet. The findings of this report are no surprise, but they are incredibly challenging. And the motion that we have moved today notes that the release of the synthesis report overnight relating to the climate emergency, and it notes the statement by UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres that there can be no new coal, oil or gas projects in Australia, and that in fact Australia and other developed nations must phase out coal by 2030. And it calls on the government to heed the call of the IPCC and the UN Secretary-General and stop approving new coal and gas projects. Now, the synthesis report shows that we're already at 1.1 degrees of warming, and it also says that projected emissions from existing fossil fuel infrastructure will see us blow any chance of constraining warming to 1.5 degrees. It says the choices and actions implemented in this decade will have impacts now and for thousands of years. Now, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres puts it beautifully when he says humanity is on thin ice and that ice is melting fast. The climate time bomb is ticking. But today's IPCC report is a how-to guide to defuse the climate time bomb. It is a survival guide for humanity. It shows the 1.5 degree limit is achievable, but it will take a quantum leap in climate action. The report is a clarion call to massively fast-track climate efforts by every country and every sector and on every time frame. Specifically, and I'm still quoting here from the Secretary-General, no new coal, and the phasing out of coal by 2030 in OECD countries and 2040 in other countries, ending all international public and private funding of coal, ensuring net zero electricity generation by 2035 for all developed countries, ceasing all licensing or funding of new oil and gas, stopping any expansion of existing oil and gas reserves, shifting subsidies away from fossil fuels to a just energy transition, and establishing a global phase-down of existing oil and gas production compatible with 2050 global net zero target. I don't know how much clearer this guy's going to be. No new coal, oil or gas. And yet what have we got here in Australia? We've got 116 projects in the pipeline. They were in the pipeline under the last terrible government. They're still in the pipeline under this new government, and I thought we had an election. And I thought people voted for a change, so you kind of expected there might be a policy change. But right now we've got 116 of these projects in the works, and the government is proposing a mechanism that's going to do absolutely sweet nothing to stop any of them. It's an absolute outrage. 116 new coal, oil and gas projects, $11 billion a year in taxpayer money going to subsidise the fossil fuel sector. I mean, seriously, are we in a budget crisis or not? $368 billion for nuclear subs for some phony war when the real war is against our planet. And it's being driven by greedy fossil fuel companies that are reaping billions for their own personal benefit. Meanwhile, ordinary people are paying the price. We've seen floods, we've seen fires, we know what the devastation looks like, and that's at 1.1 degrees. Seriously, wake up, folks. Please go and read this report. I know we're all busy, but go and read the damn thing. If you're not awake after having read that, then honestly, I don't know how many fossil fuel donations you need to accept to continue to have your head in the sand. This parliament has a decision to take. And as the world scientists have said, the decisions that we take today will influence the next 1,000 years. This is serious, folks, and I do not want the might of the fossil fuel companies, their dirty donations and their promises of incredibly overpaid lobbying jobs after you folk leave this place. I don't want that making the decisions for our nation. We have a chance to actually make a difference here. We have all of the world's scientists laying out the roadmap for us for what to do. You can't say we weren't warned. We've had years and years of these reports. They've now synthesised it for us. No new coal, oil and gas. It's what the Greens will always fight for. We can have a discussion about how quickly we exit, and the UN says let's exit by 2030, but no new coal, oil and gas. Stop giving them public money. Stop giving them approvals. Stop taking their dirty donations, and stop going off to work for them after you leave this place.
Authorised by L. Waters, Australian Greens, Canberra.